Dirty Laundry, written and read by Bill Lenihan. There were two separate signs above the shop: tailor's newsagent and laundrette. He tried unsuccessfully to knock the snow from his shoes as he pushed open the door. The bell rang, an old-fashioned brass bell suspended over the door, probably 60 or more years old, long before his time at any rate. He closed the door against the biting wind. It was gloomy inside, and his eyes were adjusting. A single fluorescent light, hanging by chains from the ceiling, swayed in the draught, causing shadows to dance around the room. Inside, now he looked around. The walls were painted, dark brown. The ceilings and ornate cornices were yellow with age. Empty shelves lined one wall, alluded to its former use. It wouldn't be out of place in a Dickensian novel, he thought. Apart from the smell of washing powder and soap, there was another smell that he did not recognize. Against one wall was a row of old washing machines that looked as if they'd seen better days. A clock struck the hour. It echoed through the room, startling him, and for no reason he counted the chimes. Then, as if on cue, the whir of a dryer. "Sorry, love," a voice said. "Did that startle you?" His eyes, now accustomed, he saw an old woman sitting in the corner. Above her head was a clock. It was like an old school clock. "No, not at all," he said, and then, realizing how stupid that sounded, he started to laugh. "Well, to be honest, it did startle me. I wasn't expecting any of this." He waved an arm around. It seemed a bit makeshift. "Everything in the valley is makeshift, son. You're not from around here, are you? We don't get many visitors in these parts. One road in and the same road out. Just a dead end, really. This used to be tailor's newsagents when things were better, that is. Before the strike, you see. Things were better then. At least I think they were. My mum used to bring me down here every Saturday. She came to settle her paper bill, and she'd buy me a comic and some sweets. We used to have a newspaper in the morning and one in the evening. I remember the paper boy so well. He died, you know, when he went down the pit. That's where they all went. Well, there wasn't anything else, really." She paused as if lost in thought. "Yes, he died not long after the strike, when they went back to work. Killed in a fall he was. They said the prop gave way. I remember him so well. He used to tease me, you see." He noted her head bowed. She looked at the floor, bare boards, worn with traffic, of countless feet from times gone by. He wasn't sure whether she was talking to him or just reminiscing. Whichever, he could feel the pain in her voice. "Were you in the strike?" he asked. She looked up. "Yes, we all were. Whether you were a miner or not, we were all in it." She pointed out through the grimy window. "Is that your caravan, son?" Yes, I was going to leave today, but it looks as if I'm stuck now until they clear the snow." "Well, I wouldn't hold your breath, love. The last thing they'll do is clear the road. They think no one needs to get out, and they know no one needs to get in. Was the time we had a bus service, but that's long gone as well. Took the heart out of the valley, they did, when they shut the pit. The heart's gone out of the people too. Lost all our fight we have. Never used to be like this." "But why didn't they just go back to work?" he asked. "Why did they have to stay on strike? Everything would have been fine if they'd gone back to work, wouldn't it?" "No, love. It was never going to be all right. Thatcher wanted it and she pushed it. And Scargill, well, all he wanted was a fight. The miners had no choice. He didn't even hold a ballot. Just went ahead and put everyone on strike. The pits were shutting down with or without a fight. That's what she wanted. That's what she got. And they went out at the start of summer. Bonkers. All the boys knew it was wrong time, but Scargill couldn't wait. Starved and froze out we were. In the end, we had nothing. The union had no money. He used to go begging for food, looking for charity. Oh, they called it by some fancy name, but begging it was. I listen to those today who talk about the camaraderie, and yes, there was plenty of it, but for a lost cause. The media report was biased in favour of Thatcher too, and the police came from everywhere, they did, itching for a fight, but blamed the miners. She gave a sigh. The number of times my Cled came home after taking a beating. Trouble was, he was a big fella, so they singled him out. He was no fighter, gentle giant really. Used to write me poetry, he did. We met in his shop when we were children, knew each other all our lives. He died, you know, after they promised the pit would stay open. It seemed to lift the load from his shoulders. Then the news came that they were shutting it. I think it was all too much. Heart attack, they said. Broken heart, more like. I come down here every week with my poems, and remember Cled? Do you have children, he asked. Yes, 2 boys. They live in Australia. My brother took them after Cled died. Said this was no place to bring up boys. Nothing here for them. She paused, reached down, took a tissue from her bag to which dab her eyes. It was hard for them, she said. To see me in pain, I just couldn't get over it. I still miss him. I've flown out to see them a couple of times. They want me to settle over there. But I can't. I can't leave Cled. He's up on the hill waiting for me. The tears were rolling freely down his face now. He took a deep breath and decided to say something. My father was here during the strike. Miner, was he? She turned to look at him. No, he was a policeman. Well, I wouldn't go shouting that in the village if I were your love. There are still those that would take up the fight. But why are you here? Why are you telling me? I don't know, he said. There was a moment of awkward silence. He told me he used to drive down here and sit in the car, but never had the courage to speak. Speak about what, love? What did he want to say? He didn't tell me, but I think he wanted to say sorry. I didn't know he'd been involved in a strike. I knew he'd once been a policeman, but he left to become a social worker. He mainly worked with the homeless. It was only when he was dying that he opened up to me. He was full of remorse. He told me he joined the force to make things better, to make a difference, to change things. Instead, things changed him. The old woman sat quietly as he told the story. Just a few days here, he realised he was nothing but a paid thug, paid to intimidate not only the miners, but their wives, and even worse, their children. It was freezing, and a light snow blew across the valley. He was sitting in the back of one of the police vans when the sergeant said strikers were stealing coal from the slag heaps. He looked towards it and saw a black mountain of despair, pockmarked with holes of desperation, the desperation to stay warm. They were digging in the slag heaps, looking for coal to burn. As the van pulled up, the sergeant shouted, "Go get the rats out of their holes." Everyone started running, mostly women and children, but the sergeant wanted arrests. My father didn't move, and the sergeant asked if he had a problem. He didn't answer. He was ordered to go and check the rat holes and make sure no one was hiding in them. People were already being forced into the vans. The sergeant would have his arrests. My father got to the last hole, and when he looked in, he saw a young girl. She couldn't have been older than 8 or 9. She was looking up at him, and he could see the fear in her eyes. He told me he could still see her after all these years. Her face was black with coal, shaking from cold and fear. All he could do for her was to smile and walk away. When he got back to the van, the sergeant was grinning and asked why his eyes were running. He replied that it was because of the cold and wind. He resigned soon after. Children who should have been able to reach out to him were afraid of him. They sat in silence. He listened to the hum of the washing machines as he thought about his father and the guilt he had carried to his grave. Why had he come here? He had no answer. The woman stood up and drew nearer. She stood under the light, and he saw that she was not as old. Not really, but she looked tired. "Goodbye, love," she said. "You take care." She stepped out into the cold.